All right, well, now I want to turn to Tom Farrell, our layout scratch builder, and see what, now that he has finished, I believe finished, his scene.
Shantytown.
He is starting another one, and we'll see if he has a dam in this second scene.
For the introduction. Yes, I have something new this evening. A new scene. So this part of my layout is called Turtle Creek. And basically there's a West Turtle Creek and an East Turtle Creek. And the West Turtle Creek will be a tunnel and mining scene. And this is part one of that series. And I'm going to go through what's going to be the content of Turtle Creek West. I'm going to scratch build a dual tunnel portal. There's going to be a caved in abandoned tunnel. I'm going to show you these a little later in the program. A hobo camp outside the cave-in. Two mines, at the moment I'm calling them unobtainium mines. I don't know if they're going to be coal mines or limestone quarries, but right now, unnamed. Several company houses. A water tower, which you see my scratch-built water tower here on the left. That'll be in the West Turtle Creek. Will be this depot from my previous layout, the Turtle Creek Depot. Gleason Mechanical Testing, another scratch build of mine from my old layout. Lazaro Ironworks, it's another scratch build from my previous layout. Sarunas Miracle Lighting Products, another scratch build from my previous layout. And a wood truss bridge. This was a kit, which I can't remember whose. So basically the items 1 through 5 are all going to be new. Items 6 through 11 are from the previous layout. I estimate Turtle Creek West is going to be 6 to 8 parts. So Jim, put that in your reservation book. The first thing I'm going to show you this evening is the caved-in tunnel and abandoned track that I'm working on. Oh, this was the area of the layout that I want an abandoned caved-in tunnel and abandoned track. The abandoned track will appear as though this main line used to go right into this mountain here. First thing I did is I took a piece of plywood and I sketched out a tunnel opening using an NMRA On30 track gauge. And then I cut it out with my little mini table saw and my Dremel. And then with my razor saw, I cut out basically the tunnel. It's about four inches deep. And I'll later, as you'll see, I'll paint that black. And that'll be the cave-in. And I'm going to show you how I make my tunnel portals a little later when I do the dual tunnel portal. But for testing purposes, this was the single portal. I wanted to make sure I had clearance to the left and right of my of the saw cut. Then I began mocking up where the retaining walls would go. So that's another piece of plywood. I build all these retaining walls on plywood. Gives me something to glue these sticks to. Next up, I have a bridge abutment. I had to position, these are the two key positions. I couldn't build the retaining wall here in between these two till I knew the exact position of this bridge abutment and this tunnel. So this is Elmer glued in place. Then I cut my piece of plywood to fit in between these two structures, the tunnel portal and the bridge abutment. Then I did a mock-up, what I call my first mock-up. So this is the general mock-up. This is not in yet. This is a piece of fascia board that I put in. Here's that bridge. There's going to be a tunnel up here. There's going to be some analog tracks up here, some DC tracks with a DC transformer down below. Everything on my layout's now digital command control, but up here is going to be an excuse to run my old analog locomotives back and forth. This is an old kit. That's all I got left of it. So this is going to be, I'll call it a kit bash, but when I'm done, it's going to be a scratch build, basically. That'll be in a later part of the series. Another two back into the tunnel and a crossing here. Tracks going this way. It'll look interesting. I haven't totally have it figured out yet, but it'll look kind of neat. Now I wanted to show you how I stained the stone ridge abutment. First of all, the ridge abutment are nothing more than HO scale on my O scale layout. These are retaining walls from Woodland Scenics. They come in a single large height. I use them at full height, and I cut out one of these segments so that with a razor saw, I didn't want to have two towers, if you will. So I just cut one out, glued it together, and I began using my magic weathering wash, which is the steel wool and white vinegar. And it turned out rather nice for cut stone. We call that a rock face in the stone industry. They actually chisel 180 or 360 degrees around that to get that look. So they saw cut it and then they hand chisel it, just for reference. Next, I needed a timber retaining wall. So I started with, these are inexpensive craft sticks from Hobby Lobby. I cut them to length. Then with my razor saw, I scored them, and then I stained them. And then I removed the fuzzies with a light sanding paper. In this case, I used two colors of Hunter Line stain. I just used a light brown and a dark brown. This is a plywood base. I put a series of lines in here so that I don't get run out, even though this isn't a very high retaining wall. It's nice to have reference lines on there. I used a combination of super glue and yellow glue to put these pieces on. I put them on in random colors, dark, couple lights, dark, light, couple darks. There's the finished wall, total random look to it. I only use the super glue when these things were warped and lifting, because super glue is like arc welding something. It instantly bonds and held down the warped wood. This is 040 plastic. I'm putting this retaining wall on a plastic base, and these little plastic pieces are the cross member reinforcements. I'll show you in a moment where they go. So I took my pin vise, I drilled some holes across the about halfway up. These are 12 by 12s. They too were it's 1/4 inch material. They were scored with my razor saw, then stained the darker color, and then with a pin vise and a little drill bit, I drilled holes in preparation to put these hex nuts on from Grant Line. There's basically the finished wall. So those little plastic pieces you saw earlier, those are just glued on here. And then these are the Grant Line hex nuts. I cut the, if you look, see these, see that little piece of plastic bolt? When you put them on the, here, you have to shear that bolt off and just glue them onto the styrene. So here they have the pins, here they don't have the pins. Then I put it in place, the retaining wall. I wanted plastic here because I'm going to put ground cover over here, and I didn't want it's just I didn't want it to be wood. It would warp. So when I put Elmer's glue down here and Woodland Scenic cement and some sort of ground cover, if that's wood, that's gonna warp. So I always put the bases of my retaining walls are always plastic. Now I constructed what I call an interesting concrete block retaining wall. Interesting because basically if you just take a piece of Monster Works concrete block and paint it gray, it's a relatively uninteresting wall, if you will. So the first thing I did is cut some of those blocks out to show a little decay. Then I put some brick behind it and stained this. This was a technique to have multiple materials on a retaining wall. Some of you may recall from my shanty town, I did a little wall on the 3 rental homes that had all these various, just makes for something visually interesting. The easiest thing, and a lot of people do, is the cliche. They just do a wood retaining wall like here on the right. This is far more interesting to the eye to have all these multiple surfaces, materials. There's my tunnel portal maturing there. These are those Grant Line bolts. These are styrene 040 cut out with the same technique as the retaining wall. All these techniques are just repeatable here. So an overview of the progress so far. Another mock-up. So there's my tunnel portal. There's the wall. Scene starting to shape up. Here in the background is the next project, which you'll see in a moment, is the dual tunnel portal. So this has 2 openings. The first thing I did is looked online and researched a whole bunch of tunnel portals. Then I came up with my own idea. I start with a piece of plywood, 2 NMRA, well, actually 1, but 1 NMRA On30 track gauge. I just outlined it here and outlined it here. Cut it out with my little table saw, little micro mark table saw, and with a Dremel I cut this out. And this is in preparation to put more of these sticks on. There's the Hunter Line weathering mix. I used driftwood, medium brown, and light gray. I did not texture these with the razor saw. I thought they had enough detail as they were. So I began gluing them on with yellow glue. Occasionally I would use a spot of super glue if I had one that was misbehaving or warped. You just build it up layer after layer. You can't tell that they're basically strips of wood when you're done. There's no point to use 1/4 inch material, 12 by 12 material here. It'd be a waste of materials and would be much more costly. These are just craft sticks. So you're just building it up. Later, I'll go back with my micro mark table saw, as you'll see, and I'll trim this flush on both sides. Now I begin putting the 12 by 12s in place. I did score these with my razor saw, and they're stained the dark brown. I wound up cutting this off. And I just put a 4 by 4 down the middle here. So this is the thing all trimmed out. I think it looks pretty attractive, especially, see the randomness of the color. And this is as far as I got. These will be next week. You'll see that this will be finished. About 6 o'clock this evening, I took this picture. These will all be rusted. This special V goes in here. These are special length pieces. They bridge this gap, and the others will be populated. But anyway, this will be in essence finished next show. And it's just really exciting for me to move on to a different project. The last project was started in June, Shantytown. I just finished last week. This should finish probably May or so. And that's what I have for you this evening.
Fantastic as always. Anybody have any questions for Tom? Tom, thank you so very much. We look forward to seeing you finish it up next week.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.